Hey, everybody, welcome back to Surrounding the Dragon. I am Sara Asadoorian, your favorite doctor of acupuncture, and I'm psyched to be here. This is the first episode that I've done solo in, I think, over a year. And I'm psyched to get this episode out here to you. I have a few more episodes in the queue ready to go in the coming weeks. And so get ready. We're going to start getting this project back up and running again. And if you're new to me, welcome to the show. Welcome to Surrounding the Dragon. Welcome to all things Dr. Sara. Before we get into the doozy of an episode that I have for you right now, a couple things. One, what the heck is Surrounding the Dragon? If you're new to me, you probably have no idea what. And one other thing I want to add before we get going is just this little announcement that the things that I talk about in this episode are my personal ideas. They come from my personal experience with plant medicine, specifically ayahuasca. And I'm sharing this content and these ideas with you solely for educational purposes only. In no way am I suggesting that any of you listening go out and engage with or consume plant medicine. It's something that I just want to share for you here for educational purposes only, because I think the message is very potent and useful for us given the state of the world that we are currently in. That being said, let's start with Surrounding the Dragon. As a little refresher, or if you're new to me, let's talk about what Surrounding the Dragon is. Surrounding the Dragon is a clinical technique. It's a needling technique where we place needles all the way around a particular targeted area of the body. I tend to use it a lot for scar tissue, and the goal is to surround an area with the intent of nourishing and healing from all angles. There are no angles left untreated when we surround the dragon. And let's see, it was probably maybe 5 or 6 years into my clinical practice. I'm about 13 years in at this point, but it was right around that kind of midway point where I realized that surrounding the dragon is not just a needle technique for me. What it is, it's actually a methodology. It's how I approach my patients. So when patients come in to see me with back pain, they know that they're not just going to get the physical body treatment. To surround the dragon, we're also going to address the emotional and the spiritual components of physical pain. And that's something that I've been doing for quite a while in my practice. And so when it came time to start this podcast, of course, that's going to be the name of my podcast. Like, why isn't it? Because this is the space where we address common topics from very uncommon angles. And, the more unconventional, the better, I think. And so tonight, this conversation is one that I had with my Tribe Athletics community last week. And for those of you who don't know, Tribe Athletics is it's a local community for some of my current and former patients. We're a bunch of active adults who like to come together and have more expanded conversations around things like consciousness and how it relates to how our self-reflective and our personal growth relates to things like exercise and athletic performance and our physical pain and all the things that we as active adults tend to face in our day-to-day lives. So Tribe Athletics is that community where we have those conversations. And last week, we had our very first virtual gathering. Typically, we meet in person at my clinic once a month. But for convenience purposes, we decided to go virtual last week, and it was great. And I actually had some friends from out of state call in, and they were able to participate in the call also, which was awesome. So we were able to grow the community a little bit, though it was in a virtual way. So I'm going to open that up again later in, October. I'm recording this in end of September, but later in October, we're going to have another virtual tribe gathering. And so if you want to get on that list, if you want to get in on it, I'm going to have a link down below where you can get on that email list so you can stay up to date on all of the happenings and all the virtual gatherings that we're going to have in the future. So check that out in the show notes if you're interested. But the conversation that we had and the one that I'm about to present to you here, it was so good and it was so well received that it's kind of a no-brainer that I have to, I want to sit here and present it to you for the masses, all of the dozens of listeners that I have here at Surrounding the Dragon. So stick with me on this one because it's an important topic and it's all about love. So typically I'll talk about sports medicine stuff or the body, but tonight it's going to be all about love. And I'm going to present this in 3 layers. And somewhere in the middle, you might get activated a little bit. There's some parts of this that's going to feel really uncomfortable and almost infuriating. Not even almost, definitely infuriating. But if you feel that, good. Like, that's a good thing, because it means something within you is landing, right? Some awareness is activating within you. So please stick with me all the way to the end. Don't just stop at the part that pisses you off. Okay? Because I promise you, if we can get all the way to the end, it'll make a whole lot more sense. And my hope is that you'll go away from this episode with a different and refreshed perspective on love and how you might be able to interact with it and express it and embody it and all the things in your everyday life. Because it's this type of love that I'm about to talk about tonight that I think can change the world. But the trick is we all kind of have to learn how to do it. So that's kind of the hard part. But let's start first with this conversation. And again, I'm going to lay it out in 3 layers. And let's just dive right in first with layer number 1. And we're just going to surround the dragon around the definition of love in the first place, right? So first, what is love? And I Googled this definition the other day. And the definition that came up was, it defined love as being a deep feeling of affection and or appreciation. And that makes sense. And I would say that that's accurate. And I would say, even if I were to ask a lot of you out there to describe or to define what love is, I'm willing to bet it would be something pretty similar, right? It is this feeling of deep affection or appreciation. And, in my earlier years, meaning prior to the last, 8 years, we hear things about love being the thing that's going to save us all, right? We hear things about love, like one love, and, love never fails, and all of that, right? Love being the thing that's going to save the world. And so from the perspective of the definition I just provided you, love being that, deep feeling of affection and appreciation. Well, for me, that definition doesn't quite land for me. It doesn't quite fulfill the magnitude of love being the thing that's going to save us all, right? That definition doesn't quite hit the mark. It never did. And so a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago at this point, I remember I was going into a plant medicine ceremony, an ayahuasca ceremony, and I went in with the intention of wanting to learn how I can bring more love into my life and to learn more about what love is in the first place. And the thing about medicine is that it always gives me what I need and not necessarily what I want, right? And if you've ever experienced medicine or really anything self-reflective in life, you don't always get what you want. You're not always in control of what the medicine or what God teaches you, but you always get what you need. And that was the case in this particular ceremony. And I got what I needed. And that was a new, fresh definition of what love is. And that message that came through very clearly was that love isn't just this deep affection of love, of affection. It's actually the expression of divinity. Love is the expression of divinity. It came through. And that sounds lovely. Let's just sit with that for a second. Love is the expression of divinity. And when I say divinity, I'm not talking about any particular organized religion, okay? If you're a religious person, that's beautiful. Lean into that. But when I say divinity, what I'm referring to is the creator of all that is, the thing, this higher being that is responsible for all of creation here, this life that we experience. For me, I'm comfortable with using the word God to explain that, the divine. Other people use other words like universe or source, creator, great spirit, or even like singularity, right? Whatever word you like and whatever word aligns with you the most to describe that creator of all that is, go with it. It doesn't have to be religious, but it can be if that's your jam. For me, I'm comfortable with the word God. So love being the expression of divinity, it is the expression of God. It is the expression of the creator of all that is. And if we slow down for a second and like take a deep breath and really reflect on that, well, love being the expression of divinity and knowing that we humans are part of the creation, well, then that means we got to have some of that love within ourselves, right? Love is inside of here. And when we act from love, well, guess what? That means we are acting in alignment with God, with the divine. Well, and if that's true, what it means if we're not acting from a place of love, like anger or fear or rage, well, that might mean that we're not acting in alignment with our own divinity, because love is the expression of divinity. There is no other expression that comes from the divine. It's only love. And that's not to say that we can't ever feel anger and fear and rage and anxiety and all the things that we're all feeling right now. It's not that we're not supposed to feel those things. We want you to feel those things, but when it comes to action, when it comes to responding to the outside world, if our actions are based on our emotions and what we're feeling in our body, then we have a responsibility to process and transmute the energy that we feel when we're triggered with anger, when we're triggered with fear, or fill in the blank. We have that responsibility and an opportunity to transmute that energy and let it come out of us in a different way. So as we express ourselves outwardly into the world through responding or reaction, my message is to let that action be the expression of divinity. So don't ignore your feelings. Don't push them off. Feel them, but transmute them into something that is aligned with the divine. Let that thing be love. And this will carry us into layer 2. Okay. If you run in spiritual or religious circles, even if you don't, you've probably heard the phrase unconditional love. That's the thing. That's like the highest level of love, right? Unconditional love. And we know that term to be unconditional, loving no matter what, loving without conditions. Like there are no prerequisites that we have to check before we can engage with love. It's just love unconditionally, no matter what. And so here's my favorite part of surrounding the dragon. We're going to take that word unconditional and let's go all the way around it. Let's consider an alternate definition. So let's take that word condition, right? I was an athlete and I'm a strength and conditioning specialist in addition to being an acupuncturist, right? So what do? As that strength and conditioning specialist, I condition athletes to be able to perform in a very specific way, right? It's training to perform in a very specific way, right? We condition our pets to let us know when they got to go outside, right? Remember that Pavlov's dogs, right? If you remember that from, psychology, click the bell, give them a treat. So the dogs were conditioned to associate something positive with the click of the bell, right? Conditioning, training, teaching, right? We are conditioned to think, feel, and behave in very specific ways. So if we come back to this word unconditioned, unconditional, and we surround the dragon in relation to love, well, what if that actually meant not meeting conditions, not having to meet conditions, but loving in ways that we're not taught to love? What if it means loving in ways that we're not conditioned to love? Right? Just sit with that for a second. Take a deep breath. And here's where it might get a little infuriating, because I can speak for myself and probably most of you out there too, when I say, I've never been taught or conditioned to love the things that I don't like. I've never been taught or conditioned to love the things that I disagree with, or the things or people that hurt me. Right? So take a deep breath here. That's the infuriating part. Just think of that for a second. How infuriating would it be to love something or someone that you don't like? And how hard is that to do? But imagine the state of the world if we learned how to do that. So everybody take a deep breath. That's the infuriating part. I promise you it can be done because I've done it. This is learning this lesson personally is how I healed from my divorce 8 years ago. Oh, and there goes a thumbs up. I don't know how that turned out. We're not going to edit that out. We're just going to keep that in. Thumbs up. That's divine right there. Thumbs up for me for learning to love somebody that hurt me. I tell you, it is infuriating and it is never easy, but it is doable. And it's not to necessarily benefit the other person or the opposition. It's all to benefit the collective. And this will kind of spill over into layer 3 here. So we'll come back to this unconditional thing, but for now, take a deep breath and let that go. It'll make more sense when we keep going here. So with layer 3, this is where a little bit more like personal responsibility shows up, because I'm somebody that prays. I sit down and I pray to God to guide me down the path towards my highest good and the highest good of all, right? That's what I'm praying for. Some of you might meditate. Some of you might practice some type of mindful manifestation. But whatever your jam is, if you're sitting down and connecting to the divine in some way to pray, to bring good things into your life, I'm willing to bet that you're asking for something very similar, if not verbatim, right? The highest good for yourself and the highest good of all, right? Oh, imagine that life. Imagine that version of yourself. That's what I'm praying for. And I'm willing to bet that's what you're praying for too. Because like, let's face it, like nobody's going to be praying for the mediocre version of their life. Like, hey God, like give me the okay version of this life. Give me the okay version of this world that we're living in. Nobody's asking for that, right? We're all asking for the highest version, the highest good of self and all. Always. We're asking for that highest version. But here's the thing. Here's where we sometimes get lost. And this realization I was reminded of from another ceremony from earlier this year. And it was that sometimes I forget that this relationship between me and the divine, well, it's a two-way street, right? It is a two-way street. And here I am, I'm praying, I'm trying to bring more good things into my life, trying to bring more love for myself and for the world, because God knows we could use it down here right about now. But I forget that it is a two-way street, that I have a responsibility to embody the lessons and the gifts that have already been given to me. And I forget also that if I'm going to be delivered this highest version of my life, right? This highest version of myself, well, I have to be willing to embody that version of myself. I have to be crystal clear on who she is and what she's all about. And what can I do here in my life right now to take the steps down the path of becoming that higher version of myself? That's on me. That's nothing that, anybody else or anything else can do for me. I have that responsibility. And I'm talking, this is the highest version of myself. This is like the version of myself that is as close to the divine as my soul is capable of reaching. That's how I am talking about, because that's the life I'm trying to manifest for myself and for everyone around me. Because when I'm that version of myself, man, there's a lot of good that I can do in this world. When I envision that highest version of myself and what she's all about and how she presents herself out into the world, well, here's what I know. She knows how to love in the unconditioned way. She does it. And she's really freaking good at it. And it is the hardest thing in the world to do. And yet she does it. And I've been able to do it a little bit here and there. And it's been a practice of mine for the last few years. And I'm getting better at it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm better than anybody. It doesn't mean I'm higher than anyone. I'm more righteous or whatever. No, that's not what it is. It's just I've learned this lesson enough and I've practiced it enough to know how powerful it is and how much peace it brings into my body. I have enough of that knowing within me to be able to sit here and articulate it to you and encourage you to do the same thing, to learn that skill of unconditional love, that unconditioned way, loving the things that you don't like. It's not easy to do. But can you imagine a world if we all learn how to do that? If instead of, having two ends of our spectrum here, two sides of midline, and those ends of the spectrums are so far apart, and that pendulum just keeps swinging back and forth, and all we do is just keep pummeling each other. Imagine what the world would be like if the ends of that spectrum came closer together and we learned how to love the things that we disagree with. We loved in the unconditioned way. Imagine that world. That's the world I want to live in. And I know that's the world you want to live in too. So how do we do it? That's the next question. How do we get there? How do we develop that skill and get better at it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because if you close your eyes and take a deep breath and you think about what it would be like to love your quote opposition, that thing, that person, that organization, the whoever or whatever, that thing that you don't like, the thing that you disagree with the most and you're so passionate about it. Imagine loving it. That feel good? You want it, like, does that feel like something you can do right now? Probably not, and that's okay. We don't start there. Let's not start with the most difficult thing. And I'll put it in this way. As I mentioned, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm also a sports medicine clinician. So when someone comes to see me in my clinic, and let's say that person has never done any type of working out or lifting weights ever in their life. Well, the first day they walk into my clinic or they walk into the gym, I can tell you with confidence what I'm not going to do with them. What I'm not going to do is start them with the most difficult exercises on the planet. On day one, someone brand new walking into my door, I'm not going to strap a bar onto their back or get them doing conventional deadlifts with 200, 300, 400 pounds. No way, not on day one. What am I going to do? I'm going to teach them the fundamental skills first. Maybe we start with a hinge. Maybe we develop that skill first. Maybe we acquire that movement pattern and get really good at it first. And once we've practiced that and we've got some hinging, we've got some ankle and foot mobility going, okay, well then maybe I'll give them a kettlebell and progress them from there. Right? There's a series of things that we will do to develop the skill, to practice the skill, and to progress the skill into something that's more advanced. That's the safe way to do it. We're not going to start with the most difficult variation of the most difficult movements on the planet. So, relative to what we're talking about here, with loving these things outside of yourself that you don't like, maybe we don't start there, you guys. Maybe we don't start with that type of resistance, the most advanced variation of love. Maybe we start with loving the things inside of ourselves that we don't like. Maybe we start there. And even if that love is teeny tiny, that divinity within you, maybe it's small. Maybe it's covered up over layers upon layers of things like anger and hurt and fear and anxiety and depression and all the things that so many of us are experiencing on a daily basis. Maybe that love is not so easy to find right now. So maybe we start there. Maybe we develop the skill of loving things that we don't like within ourselves first. And then we progress from there. Because when we do that, we bring love into all the things inside of ourselves, all of our shadows. If we can replace a shadow within ourselves with love and with light, well, that love, quote, footprint that resides inside of here, that divinity footprint, is going to get a lot bigger. Right? And that the more of that self-love that you practice, the bigger and brighter that divinity within you is going to get. And guess what? The bigger and brighter it gets, the easier it's going to be to find when you're bombarded by the external world. It's going to be a lot easier to find. So if you're someone right now who can't even fathom the idea of loving something outside of yourself the unconditioned way, take a deep breath and know that you don't have to start there. You can start within yourself. But the important thing, you guys, is that you start. You start. Build that light, build that love that's within you, so that you can experience more love, so that you can experience the divinity within you and in others. Because that when that divine within you is bigger and you start leading from it, you'll start to see it outside of yourselves in places that you haven't seen before. Maybe places that were hard to see, because it's everywhere. I promise you. And love, if you really think about it, it's really just the word that we attach to the feeling that we get when we experience the divine. Yeah? It's the feeling that we get when we experience the divine within ourselves and in another. That's it. Love is the expression of divinity. The unconditioned kind is the hardest to do. But I promise you, it is the kind of love that has the potential to change the world. Again, we just need to learn how to do it. So, affection, it is the expression of divinity. It is within you. It is within all of us. And it's the unconditioned kind of love, that unconditional kind of love, that's going to bring us all together. It's just really freaking hard to do. And it's infuriating, I know. But I promise you, it is worthwhile. And so, if you've made it this far in the episode, thank you. Thanks for sticking it out with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you on the next one.